Thank you, thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
Figure skating is my favorite because I always wanted to be a figure skater as a kid. But whenever I watch that, I think, God, I would have done it alone. I don't know how these people have the patience to be in a little team with a partner. Because if I practiced with some guy for 10 years and we got to the Olympics and he fell, oh my God, I'd skate around just to chop off a finger before he got up. I'd skate up to that judge's table and go, I don't have any idea who that man is. He's stalking me and I would like him removed from the building. I don't know why his outfit matches mine.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, August the 20th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day and the headlines, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and the 33 strategies of war, and Donald Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Thank you. And now, the Stuart Varney with some entertainment.
Right now, live in Chicago. Stu, take it away.
All right, good morning, Maria, and good morning, everyone. He spoke late into the night by design. The last thing the Democrats want is an aging president in prime time. He was in tears. The delegates chanted, "Thank you, Joe." He said, "I gave my best to you." The Wall Street Journal summed up this morning with these words: "Poor, unwanted Joe Biden." Tonight, the anointment of Kamala Harris begins in earnest. The main speaker, Barack Obama, Michelle, will also speak. The pro-Hamas demonstrators did not get inside the convention, but we talked to some of them, and they displayed ignorance and hatred. Today, Donald Trump continues his counter-programming. His theme at an event in Michigan will be Keeping America Safe Again. Separately, the FBI says Iran hacked the Trump campaign. To the markets, strong rally yesterday, no pullback this morning of any significance. The Dow Industrials, the S&P, the Nasdaq, all down slightly. S&P just turned north to the tune of a quarter point. The price of gold very close to yet another record high, $25.64 per ounce today. Bitcoin moving up, $60,000 and change. Interest rate steady. The yield on the 10-year Treasury at 3.83%. The 2-year Treasury yield way just a fraction above 4%, 4.03. No big move in oil. Still in the low $70 per barrel range, $74 right now. Gas regular $3.40, diesel $3.73. All right, on the show today, you will see AOC trash Donald Trump. She says he ran away to Florida. And our cameras went among the delegates to the convention. They, too, are in the dark about Kamala Harris's policies. You will see the media fawning over Kamala Harris. They love her, and they really hate Trump. It is Tuesday, August the 20th, 2024. Varney and Company is about to begin.
And there it is, the entertainment with Stuart Varney. Back in a minute. Thank you. So this is an old episode of Law and Order, and it's an interesting conversation between two assistant district attorneys, Jack, what's-his-face, and his female assistant. So they're getting ready. It's a death penalty case. He's already been convicted, the defendant, of first-degree murder, murdered a police officer, and in this story, at this particular time in the state of New York, they have the death penalty, and it's for people that, among other things, shoot and kill police officers. Well, murder police officers, whether you shoot them or not. So she doesn't like it, and he supports it. So they're having this little conversation here, and she plays a verbal trick on him that I want to bring to your attention.
Paul Sandy deprived the community of someone essential to its well-being, and I believe he deserves to forfeit his own life.
There are cracks in the system, Jack. What if someone falls through? How do we rationalize that?
First of all, there's the trial. And then there's a sentencing hearing, and appeals, and more appeals after that. Checks and balances. It's unlikely.
There we go. He just lost the argument. Because what he doesn't understand here is that when she does the what-ifs, and you always get this from the left, because what they're trying to undercut here is not the facts of the issue, it's your certainty of knowledge. So what they want you to do is waffle. Okay, so whenever somebody comes to you and says, what if, like in this situation, the best answer always is, it will never happen. There's cracks in the system, Jack. What if somebody falls through? How do we rationalize that? The correct answer would have been, we won't rationalize it because it will never happen. See, what she's doing, it's a very clever way of putting the burden of proof on Jack. But Jack is supporting the status quo. The status quo is the death penalty for people that murder police officers. So he's supporting the status quo. She is trying to get him to rationalize, if you will, the status quo. He doesn't have to do that. The burden of proof is on her. So that's why the correct answer is always, it won't happen. Okay, then now she's in the position of proving that it is happening, and or it will. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the patriotic shorts.
She had just turned 18 and decided to quit high school to study metallurgy to assist the war effort. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, her job was testing tensile strength of propellers at the Curtiss Wright plant in New Jersey. Her name was Florence Fawley, and she would leave that job to join the Marine Corps, where she quickly rose to become a drill instructor in charge of 150 women in the newly created Women Reserves. It was there that her ID photo caught the eye of Marine brass, and she became the Marine Corps recruiting poster model. While her face adorned billboards, posters, and magazine ads, she was also given a top-secret assignment that remains classified to this day. I can't reveal what it was, but I was selected because I was pretty, she would confess years later in an interview, leaving many to speculate on it. Florence remained married to World War II ace Brad Fawley for 68 years, until they passed away within months of each other.
And that was the Patriotic Shorts. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, a little bit of motivation.
Sweat equity. Sweat equity. There's some things you're not willing to quit when you've invested that much into it. Some of y'all, you can quit because you ain't putting nothing in it. You ain't put enough work in it. You can just turn your back on it because you didn't put that much work into it. There's some stuff in my life I can't turn my back on it. I work too hard to walk away from certain things because I put too much in it. And some of you can easily walk away from stuff. It doesn't mean nothing to you. If this company means something to you, if this opportunity means something to you, you wouldn't quit and you wouldn't give up and you wouldn't give in.
It's called character. You will grow through what you go through. The question is, are you willing to go through it? Sometimes a setback and you being in the dumps and miserable and frustrated about all of these things that keep going wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong, and you're looking for something to go right. When it finally starts going right, you're going to appreciate it that much more.
You cry, you're hurt. At the end of the crying and the hurt, don't give me a story. I don't need a story. At the end of it, I need you to get a reward. You already cried. You've already sacrificed parties. You've already given up sports. You've already given up a whole lot of stuff. And now you're about to cry and give up. You're about to cry and go home. If you were going to quit, you should have quit before you started. You don't come this far. You don't invest this much time. You don't invest this much energy to give up. Recycle your pain. You can decide the shape, the form. You can decide the product that comes from your pain. Get something from it. You already in pain. Use it. Do something with it. Allow it to take you to the next level. Allow your pain to push you to greatness. This is what I need you to do for me. When you walk out of here, I just need you to keep walking toward it. I don't need you thinking about it no more. You're doing too much thinking. You analyze it too much. You're talking yourself out of it. I don't know if this is going to work. I tried and it didn't work. I just need you to keep moving. I need you to make up in your mind that the only way you can lose is if you quit. I just need you to keep going. When you out there dealing with the real world, it ain't pretty. You got to have heart. Get some heart. It can be fixed and you can fix it. But when you pointing fingers and you talking about, I can't believe stuff change. The weather change every day. You don't complain about that. When you get out there, I need you kill or be killed when you get out there. We ain't playing no more. We ain't taking no prisoners no more. When you get out there, whatever you can get, go get it. Because they gonna get it before you get it. And they ain't gonna give it to you. So you go out there and get what's yours. Ain't nobody about to give you your personal freedom. If you're going to get your personal freedom, they ain't giving it away. You gotta go get it. You gotta go earn it. That test might not go away. That pain might not go away. That fight might not go away. You are a warrior. It's time for you not to back up, not to give up, not to give in. You are a warrior. It's time to fight. If you're going through trials and tribulations, the best thing you can do is handle it. The worst thing you can do is panic. If you ever study an eagle, you see that an eagle flies best when there's storms and winds. because it doesn't have to flap. It uses the wind from the storm to elevate. And so I don't care what your trials and tribulations are. Elevate yourself. Get beyond the clouds. Don't worry about your haters. Your haters are like pigeons. Pigeons can only fly so high. And so you don't have to worry about people and circumstances and situations. You just fly up to an altitude that they can't go to. You are in control. Not the little voice that gives you all the doubts, it gives you all the negativity, it gives you all the questions. You, the successful you, are in control. And you've got to continually beat that into your brain every time that little negative voice comes around that makes you feel insecure, that makes you feel less confident, that makes you feel like you're not enough. Stop being a victim. Stop letting life push you around and start fighting back. Because the minute you tell yourself that you control this is the minute you can start to change it. It all starts the moment you take responsibility and say to yourself, I can make out of this life what the I want. And no one and nothing is going to shape my destiny but me. You've got to stare all that in the face and say, you can't beat me. I'm too strong. Many start, but few finish. And that few that finish, that just keep on there in spite of the pain, in spite of the agony. They just keep on. And once they break through that wall, now it's just automatic. It's not a question of whether or not you will do it. It's done. Where you stop worrying, where you begin to trust. You get still and begin to know that you are entitled to this. You're supposed to have this. This is your calling. This is the reason that you are here. This is your time. It's done. When you no longer focus on the obstacles, when you no longer care what people think or what they might say, when you no longer find the need to seek their approval, it's done. It's done. When you say whatever price I must pay, I will do that. It's done when the pressure within you is greater than the pressure outside of you.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Daily Stoic.
Pleasure can become punishment. Whenever you get an impression of some pleasure, as with any impression, guard yourself from being carried away by it. Let it await your action. Give yourself a pause. After that, bring to mind both times. First, when you have enjoyed the pleasure, and later, when you will regret it and hate yourself. Then compare to those the joy and satisfaction you'd feel for abstaining altogether. However, if a seemingly appropriate time arises to act on it, don't be overcome by its comfort, pleasantness, and allure. But against all of this, how much better the consciousness of conquering it. Epictetus and Kyridian, 34. Self-control is a difficult thing, no question, which is why a popular trick from dieting might be helpful. Some diets allow a cheat day, 1 day per week in which dieters can eat anything and everything they want. Indeed, they're encouraged to write a list during the week of all the foods they craved, so they can enjoy them all at once as a treat. The thinking being that if you're eating healthy 6 out of 7 days, you're still ahead. At first, this sounds like a dream, but anyone who has actually done this knows the truth. Each cheat day you eat yourself sick and hate yourself afterward. Soon enough, you're willingly abstaining from cheating at all, because you don't need it, and you definitely don't want it. It's not unlike a parent catching her child with cigarettes and forcing him to smoke the whole pack. It's important to connect the so-called temptation with its actual effects. Once you understand that indulging might actually be worse than resisting, the urge begins to lose its appeal. In this way, self-control becomes the real pleasure, and the temptation becomes the regret.
And that was the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
What else do we see in the cross of Jesus? Not just our sin. We see that sin swallowed up in the ever greater mercy of God. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Jesus takes on all of it. Sin and cruelty, violence, hatred, injustice, all of it. Answers not in kind, answers not with the weapons of the world, but answers rather with God's forgiving love, which can take on all the sin of the world and swallow it up. That's also what we see when we gaze at the cross of Jesus. Our sin, yeah, and in itself, that's a very important move. But more to it, our sin conquered.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Ayn Rand quote of the day. Quote, "What is the nature of a creature in which the sight of a value arouses hatred and the desire to destroy? In the most profound sense of the term, such a creature is a killer, not a physical, but a metaphysical one. It is not an enemy of your values, but of all values. It is an enemy of anything that enables men to survive. It is an enemy of life as such, and of everything living." Unquote. That's Ayn Rand, The Age of Envy, from The Return of the Primitive. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the 33 strategies of war.
Here are further reflections on the inner front strategy. From the Greek Myths by Robert Graves. Athena now inspired Prialus, son of Hermes, to suggest that entry should be gained into Troy by means of a wooden horse. And Hippias, son of Panopeus, a Phocian from Parnassus, volunteered to build one under Athena's supervision. Afterwards, of course, Odysseus claimed all the credit for this stratagem. Hippias built an enormous hollow horse of fir planks, with a trap door fitted into one flank and large letters cut on the other, which consecrated it to Athena. In thankful anticipation of a safe return to their homes, the Greeks dedicate this offering to the goddess. Odysseus persuaded the bravest of the Greeks to climb fully armed up a rope ladder and through the trapdoor into the belly of the horse. Among them were Menelaus, Odysseus, Diomedes, Sthenelus, Acamas, Thoas, and Neoptolemus. Coaxed, threatened, and bribed, Hippias himself joined the party. He climbed up last, drew the ladder in after him, and since he alone knew how to work the trapdoor, took his seat beside the lock. At nightfall, the remaining Greeks under Agamemnon followed Odysseus's instructions, which were to burn their camp, put out to sea, and wait off Tenedos and the Calydnian Islands until the following evening. At the break of day, Trojan scouts reported that the camp lay in ashes and that the Greeks had departed, leaving a huge horse on the seashore. Priam and several of his sons went out to view it, and as they stood staring in wonder, Thymoetes was the first to break the silence. "Since this is a gift to Athena," he said, "I propose that we take it into Troy and haul it up to her citadel." No, cried Capys. "Athena favored the Greeks too long. We must either burn it at once or break it open to see what the belly contains." But Priam declared, "Thymoetes is right. We will fetch it in on rollers. Let nobody desecrate Athena's property." The horse proved too broad to be squeezed through the gates. Even when the wall had been breached, it stuck 4 times. With enormous efforts, the Trojans then hauled it up to the citadel, but at least took the precaution of repairing the breach behind them. At midnight, Odysseus ordered Hippias to unlock the trapdoor. Now the Greeks poured silently through the moonlit streets, broke into the unguarded houses and cut the throats of the Trojans as they slept.
Thank you. And now, Chapter 15 of Don't Think of an Elephant.
Chapter 15. Frequently Asked Questions. Any brief discussion of framing and moral politics will leave many questions unanswered. Here are some of the most common questions I've been asked. There is an asymmetry between strict father and nurturant parent. Why is the first masculine and the second gender neutral? In the strict father model, the masculine and feminine roles are very different, and the father is the central figure. The strict father is the moral authority of the family, the person in charge of the family, while mothers are seen as being mommies. They may be loving, but they are unable to protect and support the family and aren't strict enough to punish their children when they do wrong. Think of the expression, "wait till daddy gets home," which refers to a strict daddy. In this strict father model, mommies are supposed to uphold the authority of the strict father, but they are not able to do the job themselves. In the nurturant parent model, there just isn't a gender distinction of this sort. Both parents are there to nurture their children and to raise them to be nurturers. That doesn't mean there won't be gender-based division of labor around the house in real life, but they are not within the nurturant parent model. These models are, of course, stereotypes, idealized, incomplete, oversimplified mental models. Mental models of this sort necessarily differ from real-world cases. Strict mothers, single-parent households, gay parents, and so on. Conservative commentators like David Brooks have referred to the Republicans as the daddy party and the Democrats as the mommy party. Would you agree? Brooks and others have acknowledged the nation as family metaphor and have acknowledged that the strict father model is behind conservative Republican politics. However, their characterization of a mommy party is based on mommy in their own conservative strict father model. What they mean by mommy party is that although Democrats may care and be loving people, they just aren't tough and realistic enough to do the job. This is, of course, completely inaccurate from the Democrats' own progressive perspective. In a nurturant family, both parents are not just caring, but also responsible and strong enough to carry out those responsibilities. This is far from mommy in the way the conservatives scornfully use the term. Democrats have been able to successfully provide both protection for and prosperity to the nation. Conservatives seem not to understand what nurturant morality is about, both in the family and in the nation. They find any view that is not strict to be permissive. Nurturant parenting is, of course, anything but permissive, with its stress on teaching children to be responsible for themselves and empathetic and responsible toward others, and raising them to be strong and well-educated enough to carry out their responsibilities. The conservatives parody liberals as permissive, as supporting a feel-good morality, doing whatever feels good. The conservatives just don't get it. They seem ignorant of the vast difference between responsibility and permissiveness. How old are the ideas of strictness and nurturance? They seem to go back very, very far in history. We know, for example, that in England, before the British came over to colonize America, there were religious groups like the Quakers, who had a nurturant view of God, and groups like the Puritans, who had a strict father view of God. The New England colonies were mainly Puritan, though John Winthrop had a nurturant view of the colony he was establishing, and the nurturant view of God has existed side by side with the strict one in this country ever since. In the 19th century, Horace Bushnell wrote about Christian nurture. From the period of the abolitionists through the 1920s, there was a lively discussion about the nurturant view of God. Moreover, students of religion have shown that there are strict and nurturant views of religion that go back as far as biblical and pre-biblical times. These distinctions have been there for a very, very long time. Does the strict father model imply that conservatives don't love their kids? And does the nurturant parent model imply that progressives don't believe in discipline? Not at all. In the strict father model, physically disciplining a child who has done wrong by inflicting sufficient pain is a form of love. Tough love. Given the duty to impose loving discipline, lots of hugging and other loving behavior are permissible and often recommended afterward. It's just a matter of first things first. In the nurturant parent model, discipline arises not through painful physical punishment, but through the promotion of responsible behavior via empathetic connection, the example of responsible behavior set by the parents, the open discussion of what the parents expect and why, and in the case of non-cooperation, the removal of some of the good things that go with cooperation. A child raised through nurturance is a child who has achieved positive internal discipline without painful physical punishment. It is achieved through praise for cooperation, understanding the privileges that go with cooperation, clear guidelines, open discussion, and the example of parents who live by their nurturant values. What are the complexities of the models? The models discussed in detail in Chapter 17 of Moral Politics have built-in complexities. First, just about everybody in American culture has both models, either actively or passively. For example, to understand a John Wayne movie, you must have a strict father model in your brain, at least passively. You may not live by the model, but you can use it to understand the strict father narratives that permeate our culture. Nurturant narratives permeate our culture as well. Second, many people use both models, but in different parts of their lives. For example, a lawyer might be strict in the courtroom, but nurturant at home. Third, you may have been brought up badly with one model and may have rejected it. Many liberals had miserable strict father upbringings. Fourth, there are three natural dimensions of variation for applying a given model: an ideological, pragmatic dimension, a radical, moderate dimension, and a means-ends dimension. Both a progressive and a conservative can be unyielding ideologues, or they may be pragmatic, willing to compromise on a proposal either for reasons of real-world workability or political viability. In addition, both progressives and conservatives can vary on the two radical, moderate scales, the amount of change and the speed of change. Thus, radical conservative ideologues are unwilling to compromise and insist on the most rapid and complete change possible. Incidentally, the word conservative is not necessarily about conservative anything. It is about strict father morality. There is no contradiction in talking about radical conservatives. Indeed, Robert Reich, in his book Reason, uses the term radcon to talk about radical conservatives. From this perspective, a moderate can be either a progressive or a conservative who is pragmatic or wants slow change, a bit at a time. It is sometimes said that there is a third moderate model very different from the other two, but I have not yet seen such a model proposed explicitly. Another common variation occurs in distinguishing ends and means. There are people with progressive politics, nurturant ends, who have strict father means. These are the militant progressives. The most extreme case is the authoritarian anti-authoritarians. Those with anti-authoritarian progressive ends, but authoritarian strict father organizations. Last, there are the types, the special cases, of progressives and conservatives that we discussed in Chapter 1. The socio-economic, identity politics, environmentalist, civil libertarian, anti-authoritarian, and spiritual progressives, and the Isn't tax relief the natural way to talk about taxes? I'm a progressive, but I have to admit, they do seem burdensome sometimes. Homework in school is burdensome too, but you have to do it if you're going to learn anything. Exercise is burdensome, but you have to do it if you're going to be in good physical shape. Taxes are necessary if we are going to make wise investments in our national infrastructure that will pay off for all of us years and years in the future. That includes investments in things like education and health care for those who can't afford them. Education and health care are investments in people. They are wise investments because they give us an educated citizenry, an educated workforce, and a healthy and efficient workforce. Those are the practical reasons for taxes. Other reasons for taxes are public services, like police and fire, disaster relief, and so on. There are moral reasons for taxes as well. Education and health are important factors in fulfillment in life, and this country is about fulfillment in life. There is a reason why the Declaration of Independence talks about the pursuit of happiness and links it to liberty. The reason is that they go together. Without liberty, there can be no fulfillment in life. Thus, there are practical reasons why it makes sense to understand taxation as investment. And there are moral reasons to understand taxation as paying your dues in a country where you can pursue happiness because there is liberty and freedom. How do you respond or reply directly to a Republican strategic initiative? You can't, and that's why they're clever. Tax cuts are not about tax cuts. That's why you can't reply directly to tax cuts so easily. They are about getting rid of all social programs and regulations of business. Vouchers and school testing are not ultimately about vouchers and school testing. They are about conservative control of the content of education and the elimination of public resources. To respond, you have to put the individual issue into a much larger framework that fits your understanding of the situation. Tort reform is not about tort reform. It is about allowing corporations to act without restraints, and about taking funding away from the Democratic Party, since trial lawyers are a major source of Democratic funding. Instead of trying to reply to strategic initiatives, you need to reframe the larger issues at stake from your point of view. You can discuss the strategic initiative, or at least some parts of it, from your framework. Take tort reform. Trial lawyers are really public protection attorneys, and tort law is law that allows for public protection. It's public protection law. When tort law tries to cap claims and settlements, its effect is to take claims out of the hands of juries. That is, to close the courtroom door, to create closed courts instead of open courts. In open courts where there are juries, the jury can decide whether a given claim is a matter of public protection. Large settlements often have to do with issues of public protection. That is, they go beyond the case at hand. And open courts are the last defense that the public has against unscrupulous or negligent corporations or professionals. When conservatives talk about the lawsuits, you don't just say, no, the lawsuits weren't frivolous. You talk instead about public protection, about open courts, about the right to have juries decide, and about the last line of defense against unscrupulous or negligent corporations. If facts that don't fit frames are rejected, does that mean we should stop using facts in our arguments? Obviously not. Facts are all important. They are crucial. But they must be framed appropriately if they are to be an effective part of public discourse. We have to know what a fact has to do with moral principles and political principles. We have to frame those facts as effectively and as honestly as we can. And honest framing of the facts will entail other frames that can be checked with other facts. How do progressive values differ from traditional American values? They don't differ. Progressive values are traditional American values, all the values we are proud of. We are proud of the victories for equality and against hierarchy, the emancipation of the slaves, women's suffrage, the union movement, the integration of the armed forces, the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the environmental movement, and the gay rights movement. We are proud of FDR's conception of government for the people and his rally for hope against fear. We are proud of the Marshall Plan, which helped to erase the notion of enemies. We are proud of John Kennedy's call to public service, of Martin Luther King's insistence on nonviolence in the face of brutality, of Cesar Chavez's ability to bring pride and organization to the worst treated of workers. Progressive thought is as American as apple pie. Progressives want political equality, good public schools, healthy children, care for the aged, police protection, family farms, air you can breathe, water you can drink, fish in our streams, forests you can hike in, songbirds and frogs, livable cities, ethical businesses, journalists who tell the truth, music and dance, poetry and art, and jobs that pay a living wage to everyone who works. Progressive activists for living wages, women's rights, human rights, the environment, health, voter registration, and so on are American patriots, working with unselfish dedication toward making a better world, a world that fits fundamental American values.
And that was chapter, 13, I guess, of Don't Think of an Elephant by Dr. George Lakoff, or George Lakoff, Ph.D. Know your values, frame the debate. So, again, the whole purpose of the book is just to introduce you to the idea of frames. Whenever you hear somebody talking about something and using a word or a phrase that sounds kind of odd or out of place, odds are they're trying to frame or reframe the debate. For instance, migrant. Well, where do you when I first heard that, well, they're migrants. Migrants? What are you talking about? They've been referred to as immigrants for over 200 years. Now, all of a sudden, the New York Times and others calls them migrants. That sticks out. Okay, so you know what they're trying to do there is reframe the argument. And the only reason they want to reframe the argument is to make it easier for them to win. So we have to resist their reframe and insist on calling these people exactly what they are and what they've been for over 200 years, and that's immigrants. So that's an example. And let's see, we got next week will be the last 22 minutes of this book. Back in a minute.
There's two things I am not going to be, and that's broke and dumb. These past 4 years, I've been one of those things, steady, and it ain't the latter. Now, in 2020, I was both of those things. I was a twofer. But this time, you don't have to worry about me being no twofer. You ain't got to worry about it, because I need my problem solved. I'm not focused on making no history. And if that's all you voting for is history, hang it up. The way we trending, we finna be history. The most population to file bankruptcy. I don't care nothing about how you say stuff. I need my problem solved. And if you gonna solve my problem, I'm with you. There's two things I am not gonna...
Alright, y'all. How y'all doing on this good old evening? So, I gotta say something, y'all. So, I am voting for Donald Trump. I know it's going to be some people up here, especially black people, that's going to have something negative to say in the comments, but that's fine. Because, like I said, do your research before you go running your mouth. Research Donald Trump. That man is a businessman. Donald Trump about that money, and he is really for America. So before you go, leaving all them nasty comments or whatever you have to say, just do your research. Because when Donald Trump was in that presidency seat, guess what? He the one got us those stimulus checks. He the one got us those extra food stamps. He the one got us that check every month for the mothers just to help us out. So, like I said, tell me what Biden did, and I'm going to tell you what Trump did. And, baby, I guarantee yours ain't going to be nothing of what mine is. And, I have people say, well, you black, so, you're not going to support. Let me tell you something. It don't have nothing to do with me being black, Kamala Harris being black. That's very ignorant. It ain't about color and all of that stuff, and that's what the world keep making things about, and that's why we're never going to get out of that racism era, because everybody make everything about race. This is not about race. This is about who is going to sit in that seat and run this country like it needs to be ran. It's about who's going to get these gas prices down, who is going to help us put more money into our pockets, who is going to make America great again. That's what it's about. It's not about no color. I'm not going to vote for Kamala Harris just because she's black. That don't hold no weight with me. Tell me what Kamala Harris did. Even before she ran, she held a very important seat, and she did nothing then. She was able to start change in the seat that she already had, and she did nothing.
These guys are just weird. That's what they are.
What's really weird is how you and Kamala Harris praise transgender surgeries for minors. What's weird is how you sign legislation safeguarding surgical and medical transitioning for children in the state of Minnesota. What's weird is putting tampons in boys' bathrooms. What's weird is signing legislation in Minnesota legalizing abortion up until birth. What's weird is how you and Kamala Harris are totally okay with boys using women's bathrooms. What's weird is the fact that there is an open border with millions of illegal immigrants pouring into our country, and Kamala Harris wants them all to be citizens of the United States. And it's weird how, Tim Walz, you signed legislation giving them driver's licenses, and you're wanting illegal immigrants to have free college in the United States. What's really weird is also the fact that you want to change the sexual orientation of pedophile to be minor attracted persons and have that be recognized. I think all of this is a lot weirder.
Hi, my name is Jenna, and this picture of me in this Swifties for Trump shirt has been going viral on X and started kind of a movement in the Republican Party. I actually met Trump in this shirt in Racine on June 18th, and he said, quote, "She is great." I think this movement is super awesome, but also super important because it's no secret that millions of young female voters consider themselves Swifties. And we don't want them to have to choose between loving Taylor Swift and supporting their conservative ideologies at the ballot box in November. So I say we stop the hate towards Taylor and her fan base, and let's let Swifties be for Trump fearlessly.
Kamala Harris is president right now. All the shit she's promising, you're in power right now. Do it now. Oh, she's only the vice president. Joe Biden is asleep on the damn beach. You're in charge, lady. Close the border now. Fix the economy now. Lower gas prices and grocery prices now. Do this shit now. She ain't. She full of shit.
They telling me I'm uneducated. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not voting my best interest. But what do you all know about the 2017 Tax Cut Act that Donald Trump implemented? Well, guess what? Kamala Harris wants small business owners to pay more in taxes. They're trying to let key elements of that act expire so we can pay more in taxes. Right now, we're paying 20%. She wants us to pay 28% in taxes. If we're making $100,000, the 20% will allow us to pay $16,000. If it expires and Kamala Harris gets in office, we're going to be paying $20,000. And that's just if you're making $100,000. I've been up and down the economic ladder, so I know the difference in between the two. That small 8% that you think is small, it is actually a lot. I am not voting for Kamala Harris. That is exactly why I'm voting for Donald Trump. Please listen to the facts. They telling me I'm uneducated. I don't know what I'm doing.
Kamala Harris is a liar. She is banking on the ignorance of the American public in order to sway votes her way. The very thing that the Democrats are telling you that the Republicans do, they're doing. Watch this.
Hey, everybody. So today, Iowa put in place a Trump abortion ban, which makes Iowa the 22nd state in our country to have a Trump abortion ban. And this ban is going to take effect before many women even know they're pregnant. And what this means is that 1 in 3 women of reproductive age in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban.
Except Trump has not lied on any of you. But that was an all-out lie. The first thing I want you to understand about propaganda is that it understands the way the subconscious works. People accept truth that they hear over and over and over again. And so the reason she keeps applying the abortion bans, which we'll talk about in a second, to Trump, is because she wants you to subconsciously believe that Trump is behind you not being able to have termination in this state. So the more times she can tell you, Trump abortion ban, Trump abortion ban, Trump abortion ban, she's literally programming you that abortion bans are connected to Trump and thus playing you for your fear of your reproductive rights. But here's the problem with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which said that the federal government cannot be in your reproductive business. That's between you, your body, and you let the states handle it. Number one, that happened when Biden was in office. And number two, what that means is no one on the federal level has anything to do with any ban. As a matter of fact, the overturning protected you from ever having a federal ban on terminations.
I fell for this shit in 2016. I didn't even vote. I fell for it in 2020. I live in Idaho, so I was a closeted Biden voter. Yeah, I voted for Biden because the media and the TV and commercials, what felt like everybody, had me convinced that Trump was the devil. It's embarrassing to admit, but I was extremely uninformed. Actually didn't pay attention at all. I was the typical person that said, do whatever you want over there. As long as it doesn't hit my front doorstep, I'm good. So what changed? January 6th, I decided, something's going on here, and I'm going to start looking into Trump. That's what did it. I wanted to look into Trump. And the very first thing that popped up when I started doing my digging was the very fine people on both sides comment. So I decided to go watch that entire thing and thought, holy shit, we're being lied to. My God, was it a life-changing moment. Because wouldn't you know it, right after I started looking into the claims against Trump and Republicans and conservatives, I became almost an activist. Started making videos, started trying to get the word out. You're being lied to. Here we are again. Same freaking playbook, different year. So let's talk Kamala Harris for 1 second. People want to say that she was a DEI hire. In part, maybe she was. But Biden didn't word it like that. He said he was going to hire a woman for his cabinet because he wanted his cabinet to reflect the rest of America. And by choosing Kamala Harris, he said she was the most qualified candidate to be VP of all the women in this country.
With all the black wealth that exists here in Atlanta, with all the black millionaires that live here in Atlanta, why in the world do 92% of APS students are illiterate? Make it make sense. And we have Democratic mayors, we have Democratic city council members, we have Democratic commissioners, and for whatever reason, 92% of the kids here cannot read.
Thank you. And now, Donald Trump.
The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. Because it's the outsiders who change the world and who make a real and lasting difference. Nothing worth doing ever came easy. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. The future belongs to the people who follow their heart no matter what the critics say. We must always remember that we share one home and one glorious destiny. We all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all salute the same great American flag. Our best days are yet to come.
And that was Donald Trump. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.